Hey guys, what's up? It is Ripe again, back with more Neighbors from Hell stories. In today's video we will read a mix of revenge and neighbor stories. If you are new to my channel, please don't forget to subscribe to join our awesome community, and without any further ado, let's dive right into the stories. And the first one is titled, "My neighbor is vandalizing their side of my fence because it is facing them and therefore it is theirs." This is really stupid, I swear, but I'm not sure what to do or if they are correct or what. I live in Minnesota and I own our house. In May, I had a fence put in, a 6-foot cedar privacy fence. It encloses my backyard and runs up my side yard as well. And by the way guys, is it cheddar or cedar cheese? I'm really getting confused. Anyway, we had our property professionally assessed and marked where the property line is, and we put the fence on the property line. My neighbor has just recently moved in. Their backyard is fenced on 3 sides because all of his surrounding neighbors have fences. So the side we share is fenced by my fence. The neighbor behind him has a chain link fence and the neighbor on the opposite side has a slightly taller chain link fence. The side of the yard facing the road is open. Driving home from work the other day, I noticed they had painted all over the side of my fence that faces their yard, not like all one color, but just painting random crap. The kids, 2 younger kids and 1 POSS 13-ish, were let loose and it's a mishmash of colors and pictures and whatever. I am pretty upset by this as this fence was not cheap. I got home and asked the SO what we should do, and then I went over to talk to the neighbor. The neighbors, as it turns out, are entirely psychotic. The husband answered the door in his boxers and right off the bat was defensive. He stood there chest puffed out like he was going to fight me over it. I explained that I did not appreciate him painting on my fence. I did not actually get much farther than that because he blew up at me, ranting about how since it is on the property line, the half of the fence that is facing them is their fence and they can do what they want with it. The wife showed up at some point absolutely hammered and added to the chaos. I eventually bowed out and went home and told SO that we should just let it go. It is just paint and I know that if we have any extended negative interaction with the neighbors, it is probably going to be a never-ending headache. But now they are vandalizing it. It is being used as a backstop for what I think is a set of throwing knives by the younger teenage boy, as well as airsoft target practice. They are hanging screws and nails into it to hang targets and stuff. Paint is one thing, but the physical damage will shorten the life of the fence. I guess I'm just wondering if what they said is true. I am finding minimal info about it. It is on the property line, but the idea of the side facing them being their side seems really ludicrous, but I can also see that being a thing since it borders their yard. Can I file a police report for damage to property? Also, what legality do I have for cameras? A friend suggested putting up cameras, but since it is in their yard and they have a reasonable expectation of privacy, I don't think I would be allowed to do that. And a user in the comments said, "Congratulations, you are in a line fence dispute. Unfortunately, that means you are well outside of the competence of internet advice. The police are unlikely to get involved as fence disputes are generally civil, but you can try. If that fails, then speak to a real estate attorney about your options. You may be able to compel your neighbor to pay for half of the maintenance of the portion of fencing separating their land from yours, and you may, depending on the timing, even be able to recover half of the installation cost for that length of fence. However, litigating against a neighbor is a good way to end up having to continue litigating against a neighbor, as it tends to mark the breakdown of polite negotiation." And another user said, "The important question that no one has asked is, where is the fence situated in terms of the property line? Did you get a survey when you did the fence? Is the totality of the fence on your side of the property? If so, it would be no different than them coming and painting the front of your house and using that for a backstop. If it is on the line, then it is a bit more nuanced." And guys, I would love to hear your opinion about this story. Do you think that OP could potentially be in trouble here, or do you think that it is simply his property and essentially the neighbors are vandalizing his fence, aka his property? Please let us know in the comments. And the next one is an update to the fence getting vandalized story. So I got a lot of good advice. I was pretty not happy to realize that I would probably be in for a long haul of BS, but ultimately decided to see just how much of a headache it would be to have dealt with. I did find a lawyer who I was prepared to contact. The first thing I did was contact the fence company, since that seemed nice and easy to start with. In my original post it was suggested that because the fence posts are on my side, that makes it on my property, so I called and asked them. You guys, that fence company saved my ass. I told them what was happening and they had me come in to talk to the guy who owns the company. It is a small family-owned business. He told me that the fence is entirely on my side. I said no. I asked for them to put it on the property line. He said he knows what I had asked, but their company policy is to not put fences exactly on residential property lines and instead to shift the fence 5 inches in off the property line. This is not anything in their contracts on their website or anything. He said they should have mentioned it to me when they did the install, but they don't like to because people get mad about it. Apparently they had a situation almost just like this that they got tangled up in and just ended up starting to refuse to touch residential property lines because of the potential headache down the road. So while I think I maybe have some opinions of just installing fences a few inches away from where the owners want it without telling them, I cannot complain because clearly it worked in my favor. The property assessment people had put flags down on the property line and marked the corners with stakes, and while the flags were pulled and when I went out to where the stakes were, the one at the back of the property, the one in the back corner, was still there. It is real weedy and untamed, and he was right, it is a few inches away from the fence. So I ended up filing a police report for damage to my property. I told the neighbors I would be taking them to small claims court. They did not like that at all. I told them they can either pay for me to replace the panels that were vandalized as well as installation cost, or I would go to court and make them do it that way. In the end, they paid. Of note, the wife was there the last time I went over. It is the only second time I've talked with her. She was sober this time and seemed pretty apologetic, even if her husband was not. Also of note, the son actually came over while I was in the front raking up the winter lawn litter in the yard and apologized as well. He said his dad told him I said it was okay to use the fence and offered me money as compensation because his dad told him he would have to be the one to pay for some of it because he ruined it with his targets. I have no idea why, because the new fence panels, 6 of them all in all, were already paid for and installed. I can only imagine his dad wanted his kid to be punished because he was angry. I'm not sure what was going on in his head. I was so mad. He had almost $250, which is a lot for someone his age, and offered it all to me. I ended up telling him to keep it, tell his dad he gave it to me, and if he came asking I would tell him I took it, and told him that I didn't blame him for the damage or expect him to pay for it. He was surprised and ecstatic and said he was hoping to have enough for a PS5 when it comes out. I told him when the spring fully rolls around if he is interested. I have plenty of yard work he can come to earn the rest by the time holiday season rolls around. So to bring us to present day, I've had no other interaction with the neighbors. It's been surprisingly peaceful. The neighbor kid came and did a bit of yard work before the pandemic rolled around and earned an extra $50. I told him lawn mowing does not violate social distancing rules, so if he would like to do my yard when he does his own, he would be paid for it once it's nice enough out for the grass to grow. All in all, it was pretty successful. So thanks everyone for the advice, you are all great. And guys, it is pretty nice to see a happy ending to such a story, because it does not always have to be huge lawsuits with people's lives getting destroyed. Sometimes a solution like this can be just as satisfying. And in addition, if you have watched until here, I would really appreciate it if you could post some star emojis in the comments to support my channel. Thank you so much in advance. And the next one, I work in maintenance and my boss is a jackass who always steals my thunder, takes credit for my work and throws me under the bus to make himself look good. And cannot fix a damn thing to save his life, so I have to do it. My whole department knows this, but the people in charge don't. Part of my duties are actually, according to job description, his job, such as checking vendor inspection reports for fire alarms and sprinkler systems, equipment PMs, water reports, etc. And lately one of our vendors has been pencil wiping reports and I found it. It wasn't a big deal, but saved us some deficiencies with the authority having jurisdiction. Then another vendor tried to screw us. I found the errors and saved the company about 3k overall, not a lot but enough to earn some brownie points. As always, he took credit for it. Shortly after that we had an ice storm that took power out to half the town, the half where I live, and on snow days I'm supposed to be in with him at 5 AM to clear our office walks. But without power to trigger my alarm, I overslept. When I woke up to birds and sunshine, I knew I had screwed up. Drove to work and walked straight up to him and apologized in front of coworkers. The boss was pissed and he proceeded to light me up verbally, being a loud, condescending prick about it. I asked, "Why didn't you call me?" To which he responded, "It is not my job to be your babysitter." I just nodded, apologized again and walked away. I also stopped checking his reports, stopped looking up info on my personal phone for him. He's got a company smartphone he cannot figure out. I stopped reminding him of his personal and professional appointments too. A few weeks later he had some major meeting with some of the directors. One of the topics were some discrepancies in the reports that the authority having jurisdiction found. My boss forgot about his appointment and took a lunch meeting, which means he just went home at lunchtime. I know because I take care of the vendor meetings. When I was asked where he was, I blew him in. I think he's at home today. When he was called in, he yelled at me in front of the same co-workers as before. My desk is in a cubicle farm well away from the rest of my department for whatever reason. "Why didn't you remind me of my meeting? Why didn't you check my reports?" To which I got to smile and give it right back to him. Boss's name? "I'm not your babysitter." I really thought he was gonna lose his mind, but he just fumed, got silent, then walked away. A total of $6.46 by user musicalfool2468, and it belongs in the Tales from Retail category. Hey all, first time posting here, but I have plenty of stories to tell and I figured this was a nice and easy way to start with some, at least from my retail experience. To set the scene, I had a 30-minute crash course on how to properly operate at the customer service counter after 2 years on cash register, and leading up to this event I had done a total of about 150 customer service shifts at the desk. In this story, it is America's dreaded retail time, Black Friday. That is bad enough on its own, but I was working 2 jobs. So I had worked 6 PM to midnight on Thanksgiving, 7 AM to 2:30 PM at my morning job, and then started at this job again at 3. It was 3:30 when everyone's favorite Karen was called over to my register. I did the standard greeting and continued to ask her if she had her receipt or if we were looking at the merchandise up that she had thrown on the counter. She informed me that she used cash and that she probably tossed the receipt, which is no problem. Like most companies, we have the option to do a non-receipted return. Off note, I have basically written a script for myself detailing how everything is done at the desk. You have a question? I have a script for the scenario. So I start my spiel. Okay, so we can do a non-receipted return for your item. I just want to make you aware you will receive the lowest price this item has been sold at in the last 16 weeks on a store credit. Would you like to proceed? She agrees. I scan the item and it comes up at a total of $6.46. Now it is time for my customer to shine. "That can't be. I spent $40 on that shirt at the end of last month." Me: "I understand, ma'am. However, it has since gone on clearance and the lowest price it has been sold at is $6.46. Karen: "This is ridiculous. I need that money back. This shirt doesn't even fit me." The shirt was very obviously worn, but okay, whatever. That holds no bearing on the computer. Me: "I understand this must be frustrating, miss. Unfortunately, I can only give you what the system says I can give you. If you have the receipt..." Karen: "I don't have the damn receipt. You sold this shirt to me for $40, so I want my $40. At this point, my manager was standing about 5 feet away, ready to step in if I needed her. "Miss, I cannot change the system to a higher amount unless you produce the receipt or card the item was purchased on. My hands are tied to go by what the system says. I have no more control over the computer than saying no receipt and scanning your item before hitting total." This continues for a few minutes until she sees she's talking to a customer service brick wall that will continue to produce the same information. Karen:
"Fine, I want cash back for it."
The whole debacle resumes as I tell her I can only provide store credit as I initially explained. After she gets even angrier, she aggressively grabs the shirt off the counter and shouts about how she will keep her shirt and report me to corporate with the ringing of,
"What is your name? I'm going to report you to corporate."
She paused to eye up my name tag.
"Leslie? Is that your name? Leslie?"
At this point my patience was long gone as I finally yelled back, "Yeah, my name is Leslie. Oh, and my last initial is Z. Fake name for mom's sanity. You're going to need that because there's 6 Leslies that work here." My manager then walked the remaining 5 feet, laughing at how I handled that situation, and told me to go take a break. I asked if she was sure because I had only been on the clock for 45 minutes, and her response was, "I get that, but after her, you deserve an extra break. Take a 20 and come back after." That was the day I yelled at a Karen, and instead of getting in trouble, I got jokes and an extra 20 minutes break. Also to note, the shirt she wanted to return was originally $40 that had never been off the sale price of $32 unless it hit a better sale and dropped to $24. So I kept an eye on this shirt until it hit clearance the first week of November, when I bought one for dirt cheap and thus knew it was on clearance. Disclaimer, I have streamlined this story to make it quicker to type because I'm on mobile and cooking dinner. So she was a lot nastier than I portrayed here. I just didn't want to go through all of that cursing and personal attacks again. Because she attacked me over everything. My voice, my shirt, my hair, yeah. I was not hashing all that out again. Thank you very much for the amusing story, and guys, I once again have to say thank you so much to everybody who is posting stories on r/ripestories. I am very thankful that you take your time to write these amazing stories for me, and it is always a welcome bonus. Either way, unfortunately we have already reached the end of the video, and I would like to once again point out that it is very important that you click on the bell icon next to the subscribe button, because lately it became very evident that YouTube is in fact not recommending most of my videos to my subscribers. So in order to be kind of sure that you get a notification about my videos, it would be very good if you could click the bell icon and turn all notifications on. As you might know, I don't spam you with any bullcrap or 1000 community posts per day or something. You will essentially only get notifications about my videos. Thank you very much in advance. I hope you have a fantastic day, and I see you again tomorrow. My boyfriend-ish called 911 on me and got me committed to a mental health institution against my will, and I lost my job, lots of bills, did not pay rent. Can I sue him for damages, and if so, how? I, male 25, have been very on and off dating this guy, male 34, who we will call Alex, for the last 3 years. About 3 weeks ago we got in a big fight, regular occurrence, and I called him about 10 minutes, after which I had police and paramedics at my front door serving me with an emergency mental health examination hold. I was told that I threatened to end my own life over the phone and said I had a gun. I did not, and I have never touched a gun in my life. I do not remember the phone call at all. I was shoved in the back of an ambulance and abused by EMTs who said,
"You don't seem like you're suicidal."
Had never said I was, as far as I know. And the female EMT said something to me about my mother that was derogatory. My mother is a local and regularly required to be subject to emergency mental health examinations and has probably had run-ins with the EMT before. She is not a well woman. I was evaluated at the hospital and put on a non-voluntary 48-hour, I think it is blurry, hold. Being in hospital was not too bad, but I did have a really unpleasant person I shared a room/cell with. I was given a lot of drugs, which to be honest was quite okay, benzodiazepines, and given a script for an antipsychotic. I was offered the opportunity to leave after the 2/3 days, but the psychiatrist strongly condemned I signed a form which enforced me staying for another 2 weeks, which I did because he, the psych, seemed to imply it was not fully optional. I had my phone taken off me for reasons not fully explained, and I had to wait until a particular time to have phone access, so I had to phone my boss outside business hours. She seemed to understand but was not sure that she could just justify up to 3 weeks of medical leave without a note. I said I would try to get one. After my stay, I turned up to work to be told that I had lost my job for an unexplained absence. Showing the note from psyche doctor to HR was no help. Alex only visited me in hospital twice in this time, and he was really weird. I am now out, but I am behind in my rent and have used savings to catch up, but don't have ongoing employment. I've also been served with an order from the judge's office prohibiting me any contact with Alex and prohibiting me from possessing a gun. Not an issue, never will be. My questions are: can I sue Alex for my lost wages until I find another job, since I don't believe I actually threatened myself or anyone, nor did I ever have a gun? Is being the respondent in a domestic violence order going to affect my criminal history on background checks? I'm a social worker, and not having a criminal history is super important for my employment. Number 3, can I go after my work? It is an NGO working with refugees for wrongful termination. HR does not return my calls, and it is getting embarrassing. And a user in the comments said, no, you cannot sue Alex. Bullcrap, you don't remember. You said they got there 10 minutes after you got off the phone, and in that 10-minute span you completely blacked out the phone call? I must be missing something. What domestic violence? How long had you had the job, and how many hours did you generally work a week? From what I can tell, guys, unfortunately questions that were left unanswered. However, thankfully there is an update that we will read now. And now an update to the mental institution story. Hey all, last year I posted the above thread requesting legal advice after an MH inpatient stay. The thread was quickly locked, and I am ashamed to say that some of my comments were not me at my best. I doubt anyone remembers, but I just came across my throwaway login details and decided to share outcomes if anyone is interested, and I guess now that I am in a better headspace, give LA legal advice some tips on responding to similar questions from posters in the future. Some information that is not a legal update but is context relevant nonetheless, that I did not include in my original post. The DX I received in November 2019 was basically bipolar disorder with borderline personality traits. I have a current psychiatrist and counselor, and my DX is in review, so I no longer am sure how relevant those diagnoses are. Important thing is I am stable, medicated, housed and gainfully employed once again. No, I obviously didn't end up suing Alex, as the respondents to my original post strongly pointed out that is not really a thing, and I never genuinely pursued it. I was probably trying to place a sense of anger in a more tangible place rather than genuinely seeking legal action. I have not spoken to him in 7 months as per the DV orders, and I have no intention of doing so. As for the missing information in my original post, no, I still don't remember the offending phone call that led to my inpatient stay. I know that the commenters to my OP did not believe that I couldn't remember, but I just don't. I cannot explain why, that is the nature of mental illness. My psychiatrist believes I disassociated for a long period of the evening in question. I am sure I did say or do some silly things, and Alex was right to contact 911, as I have now confirmed he did indeed do. I have more information on this later. And no, I no longer believe I was held unlawfully. The initial 72 48-hour hold was completely legal, and I understand it is necessity. The following few weeks of voluntary inpatient stay were not as involuntary as I had believed them to be. On reflection, I was in a state of crisis, and my doctor suggested I stay in the hospital, and I was very suggestible at the time. I probably could have made more of an effort to contact my employer or attempt to access FLMA. More on that later. Response: in regards to the weapon/gun allegations, in my last ever conversation with Alex, which I conducted without breaching my order, he acknowledged I never directly stated that I had a gun nor made threats regarding a gun. I had previously, in normal not arguing conversation, mentioned to Alex that the neighbor in my duplex has a gun, and he, the neighbor, had joked to me about letting me borrow the gun if I ever needed it. The neighbor had heard Alex and I having some very intense arguments. It was a very inappropriate joke for the neighbor to make, which I shared with Alex not as a threat, but as a "hey, my neighbor is a weirdo" story. Alex then extrapolated that earlier conversation in his 911 call, stating I had access to a gun, although my neighbor was joking and would have probably never let me use it, and of course I would never just do that. The HR manager to my original job got back to me, probably early December, I cannot remember, when they released I was eligible for FLMA and offered me re-employment, probably fearing legal action, but by that point I had gotten a job through my cousin working as an aged care social worker, which was more pay and less stress. So yeah, that is the update/clarity for you. Reading over my original post and response to comments makes me cringe so bad, and I cannot believe I was ever that unwell. So sorry, but I also want to point out that having read the best of legal advice thread based on my thread, I received little useful response from this sub before the thread got locked. It is not Reddit/legal advice job to treat my mental health, but I probably would have benefited from a reminder of FLMA at that point, or more focus on my job related and less insane questions. Even though everything worked out in the end, but the commenters were too busy calling me crazy, which I was and am, but that's not legal advice. And Ripe stars, unfortunately we have already reached the end of today's video. I hope you enjoyed the content. However, if you cannot wait for more Ripe content, then I suggest you head on over to patreon.com/ripeyoutube, where you can find more exclusive Reddit content read by me. Patreon subscriptions start at just $1 per month, and for $1 your name will show up at the end of each of my new videos. However, if you are willing to spend $3 per month, you will get access to more than 50 exclusive Reddit videos, mostly just no mother-in-law stories. However, please understand, I don't want to pressure anyone into spending money, because I am already incredibly grateful that you watch my videos every single day. Thank you so much for your daily support, it really means the world to me, and I hope to see you again tomorrow for the next video.